there's actually I'm going to call it a longer way to go. So we're just going to continue to ride, as we move along, because my intention is to link to link these ideas to try to get more and more seamless. That's why I'm talking about the pushback, the obstacles to the adoption of the term Bilalian, because that's natural. It's natural. I ain't gonna call myself Bilalian. That's natural. I'm black. I got you. We know we're African American. No, I'm a black Muslim. Blah blah blah. Okay, I get it. I understand. So that's why we were speaking to the natural psychosocial obstacles to the. It's like there's nothing unnatural about the pushback because you've had one name and now somebody's saying, or several, and somebody's saying, okay, well, you should call yourself this. I ain't gonna call myself that. Okay, good. Why? Okay. And so we talk about that. Now, basically, this presentation is drawing the parallel between the adoption. Several times I said yesterday adaptation. That's not the right word. I just in my flow, just I was saying adaptation. It's adoption. Adoption, right? When we talked about adaptation, that was way back when we became Negroes. That was all a process of adaptation to it, and whoever we become. Everybody, mute yourself. Check your mic. Make sure that your mic is muted, please. So okay, so this main and the main correlation is between, and I remind my granddaughters are here, and they're making volcanoes. I think I need to send a word. We just love them, but okay. So let's move on. Let me go and set time too. We're going to close. We're going to close out today at 12:30, so you can set your own self and whatever it is you have to do in response to that. So you'll know that's how far we're going. Okay. Sure. My clock where I can see it. All right. So let's go. All right. So Bilal says it all. When I say Bilal says it all, of course, that's a double play on the idea that Bilal, because of his voice being a big deal, but then also Bilal as a term and as it relates to everything that needs to be done, Bilal says it all. So it's like everything that we have said up to a point, the goal was, or rather the object or the conclusion was what we need and who we need is Bilal for all things that he stands for. So as a name, the name of a people has to function as a placeholder for the master narrative. That's what the right name, the correct name is a name that holds the master narrative for the people or whatever it is that it labels. And that serves as a foundation for their identity. So the need for identity is the identified issue. And so after going through all the diagnosis, prognosis, the prescription is okay, just take Bilal and Bilalian, that'll do it. Because Bilal embodies all the critical components of a true human identity. This is the why, right? You've heard me say a good why can overcome any how, right? So if you understand the why for whatever it is, that's where the spirit, that's where the energy, that's where the insight, that's where the meaning is in terms of the why. Why Bilal? Because Bilal embodies all the critical components of a true human identity. And that's what we're lacking, right? So it includes the historical, personal, cultural, ideological, and the religious dimensions. You get all of that out of the name Bilal. WD-40 and Bilalianium is like this particular prescription is because there were elements that were needed from what Farad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad brought us. We needed that to do something very special to us in the condition that we had come into or been forced into. And then we needed what Imam W.D. Muhammad gave us to bring us out of and to take advantage of the catalyst that was the WD-40 and the culminating. So he is the doctor that gave the final prescription, and that final prescription, that the added active element and ingredient was Bilal and all that Bilal stood for, and so we label it Bilalianium. And we point to, because the idea of pushing back, the idea of pushing back against this name change scenario is it brings us back to say, well, look, this is not the first time. And a part of our prescription, the WD-40 Bilalianium, includes an awareness that we know the problem that you all have with names. We know the problem that you all have with labels, the ones that have been put on you. We know what you like about it. We know what you don't like about it. We know why it was put on you. We know why it needs to change, right? And so these are the early lessons, or some of the early lessons, right? Who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man. So here, the terminology with black, particularly, what Farad did for us is there's the scientific sociological term for what he did is called reoccupying the pejorative. Reoccupying the pejorative. Oh, you call me black. Oh yeah, I'm black. Yeah, I'm black, and I'm proud of it. So first the black was a pejorative, fighting words, right? But then here comes the Muslims under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam saying black is a good thing. So now we're reoccupying the pejorative. Used to be bad. And that's what those people who continue to want to say, I'm a black Muslim, even though they are, quote unquote, on and in the Sunnah, but I'm black Muslim, then you're reoccupying the pejorative. And again, of course, they're trying to give it a new twist, a new flavor, etc. Without going into all that, the idea is they're trying to reclaim black, but as a quote unquote Sunni Muslim. I'm not going further on that. The idea is that black has been an issue for us, and we've covered that territory in there. Sorry about that, because I get distracted myself. All right. So in terms of the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe, then that is, we're making black. So the idea was to get us back to an appreciation of that because the satire of Farad was the whole idea of catharsis, the whole idea of, look, I'm going to take this ugly thing. I'm going to take this thing that's been made to appear to be ugly. I'm going to make it beautiful, right? So now you can hear now, black is beautiful, right? That we had that period of time. So you saw these things, and Imam Asma, hold on to these particular when we talk about the transmission and the embrace of culture, because this is a part of it. So we've seen James Brown say a lot, I'm black and I'm proud. You've seen the bumper stickers and whatever it was, black is beautiful, right? So those are things had to have, something had to happen inside of the culture that made us embrace something that we had rejected before. And so Farad Muhammad, inside of his whole experiment, was working on that very principle at that time. Okay, so moving off black, the idea is, who is the colored man? Here's another thing that was put upon us as a pejorative, as a negative, as a label, that that we wore it, we were bearing it. Some people thought, in fact, it was an improvement uh, for those who did use the idea of, I'm not black, I'm not Negro, I'm colored. So the colored people, that was supposed to be nicer, right? But no, Farad said, no, we ain't letting that pass either. Who is the colored man? The colored man is the Caucasian white man, Yakub's grafted devil skunk of the planet Earth, right? And I think that he was also hiding, Farad was also hiding inside of that statement, skunk of the planet Earth. The grafted devil part, even the Yakub part, yeah, all that's biblical. You can go to the Bible and you can really understand with the help of what Imam Muhammad has given us, of course, Yakub's grafted devil, that's straight Bible. That's straight Bible. And that's what's there, right? But then skunk of the planet Earth is inside of the skunk of the planet. I mean, you're stinking up the whole planet Earth, right? But a skunk is black and white, right? So the whole issue of this color consciousness, the whole issue of the conflict between black and white, and I told you about the Star Trek episode where it said, "Let this be your final battleground." I won't go back to it. Y'all go back to it. You find it, what I'm talking about. So the skunk. So Farad was very conscious of all of this. I mean, the whole thing was based on the color coded consciousness of black and white and the competition and the conflict between black and white. And so the whole structure what's been done was to target that particular issue and blow it up. That's the plan. And so what I'm pointing to is that it's no afterthought in the context of, hey, we need a new and a different name other than the ones that we have been given. So Farad was working the reoccupied pejorative side of it, or also branding or stigmatizing the white people with what they had stigmatized us with. It's like somebody throw a hand grenade and then somebody with a baseball bat hits that hand grenade, knocks it back to the one who pulled the pin and threw the hand grenade in the first place. Well, that's what Farad did by knocking it back. Oh, you say all the white things good and all the black things good. Y'all already know this, right? In terms of devil's food cake, angels food cake, and all the rest of that. So moving on, right? So there's a whole lot to that. There's some people who now spend more time with that. Whatever, salt and pepper, black keys, white keys on the piano, all of that. All right. So African also a label that we had to reoccupy or to be rid of. You either had to get rid of it or reoccupy. So we're pushing away the African terminology based on this lesson that Farad gave us to show us that African had been used as a pejorative term, of which he's very aware. So lesson from the Lost Found lesson number 1, why does the devil call our people Africans? To make our people of North America believe that the people of that continent are the only people that they have, and they're all savages. Just reference Tarzan, right? He brought a trading post to the jungle of that continent. The original people live on that continent. They are the ones who strayed away from civilization. All right. So see right in there, Farad is saying, yeah, kind of what you're saying, is what you're saying. But how did they get there? They got there because they strayed away from civilization and are living a jungle life, right? So it's so it's so difficult to resist these little nuggets. In the lesson of the Nation of Islam, it was addressing our identity problem as relates to Africa, because the tribe of Shabazz has to do with the idea that our father, Shabazz, he couldn't get people to cooperate, so he took his own people and he went into Africa. They left the root of civilization, which was Mecca, and they went down into Africa. It used to be, what the lessons tell us, it used to be that your hair wasn't always nappy. Your hair was so long, sister, that's the way it was given. Your hair was so long, you could get down on your knees and your hair would cover you, like Cousin It or something like that. Your hair would cover you. And so now, just an aside, right? You got people in these Korean beauty shops or whatever, beauty supply joints selling us the hair of Indians and others, so that we can feel like we have that long silky hair. So it's saying like your hair wasn't always nappy, but what does that mean? Your hair wasn't always nappy. Well, what does that mean? That means that your nappy hair is ugly. Yeah, it's ugly now, but it wasn't always ugly. That's what it said. Okay, yeah, your nose is wide, but it wasn't always wide. It was, it used to be like this. But when your great, 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 great grandpa took y'all into Africa, then the hair had to shrivel up so they can become a sponge, so they can hold the water, so it would cool you off. And then your nose, since the humidity was such that your nose had to expand so that you could take in more cubic centimeters of oxygen with every breath, so your nostrils had to get bigger. And because you had to eat roots and berries in order to survive down there. That's how your lips got thick. And when you went down there, you got closer to the equator, and that's why you got dark. So you wasn't always black and ugly. I'm not stuck for the law. I just had to stay with the metaphor. You wasn't always black, nappy headed, big lip, broad nose, dark and ugly. You wasn't like that. You used to be like white people. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So that's the psychology, the hidden psychology and the hidden message inside of even lessons like these. But because we didn't know what the game was, this made us perfect subjects for the psychological influence of that, because it was what I just said in a quote unquote otherwise humorous kind of way. That was exactly what Farad was actually saying. He was saying that, but he needed to say it to the psyche without the psyche resisting it. And so that's the subliminal nature of the lesson. It had to get past the socialized mindset, that Negro mindset that was made. It had to get past it. A way it sneaks past it to get to the subconscious makeup is in a story, in a myth. That's how it gets there. And that's how that's how it subjects the person who can't object to that message. So it gets past the objective into the subjective, and it starts working down there to address that part that the person themselves are how can you say, resisting. But now I need to do it in a different kind of way. Farad. So Farad has a different strategy. And that's a strategy that we experienced in the Nation of Islam, and it was successful for those who, quote unquote, submitted and were true to its best motives. They are the ones who strayed away from civilization and are living a jungle way of life. The original people called the continent Asia. So don't call me African. I'm an Asiatic black man. I'm not an African black man. I'm not a colored man. I am the tribe of Shabazz. I am the original man, right? The original people call the continent Asia, but the devil calls it Africa to try to divide us. He wants to make us think that we are all different, okay? So now we go into Metcalfe's law. Metcalfe's law. This is very important to understand how this is a law it was called a network effect. This is a law operating in society. So this is a social law that's operating in a society. So Metcalfe's law, as it relates to our title, the natural psychosocial obstacles to the adoption of Bilal. Excuse me. So here's Metcalfe's law. Metcalfe's law states that the value of a network is proportional to the square of the number of participants in the network. Understand, just know this about everything. Whenever there are people participate, like Sunday today, right now, is a big football day. NFL football day. As Saturday is a college football day. So it's like, so you have people in the network for every whatever team, what, Baltimore Ravens, 49ers, Kansas City, whoever. It's like all their fans represent the network. All their fans represent the network. So there's a network for every team, okay? And the strength of the network is the number of people that are in that particular strength of the network is the number of people who are quote unquote for that particular team. So you got all these things that grow up around, you know, every team, right? Every team. So it's like I can't even enumerate it. How many things related to that, and that I want to keep pointing to you a little bit, Imam Esma, because it is the culture that's built up, around the network is what builds up the culture. The network also becomes the ummah. The network becomes the culture as a womb. Okay, so so Amazon, there's an Amazon culture, there's a Google culture, there's a Facebook culture, there's a BTC, a Bitcoin culture, right? But each culture is focused on a particular thing, right? Uh, a culture will have many, 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 many aspects of it. In fact, that's what makes it. Just like our bodies, right? We talk. This is just one body, but how many systems are in this body, right? So it's the same way with culture. There's a culture, but how many elements are there involved with culture? So inside of culture is also the governance, also the education, also the economics, and also all the other elements that make for a total society, right? In fact, we've said it before when we go through the PIIIIC cultures at the end of that line. But what a culture is ultimately, it ultimately is a bouquet. I say a bouquet of institutions, right? So you institutionalize things, and when you institutionalize them, and when they work together for the master narrative or the master vision of the people who created the culture, then it reinforces. It becomes the womb to reinforce upon the members inside of that. Since we're talking network, I'll call it network, but it's actually the culture that is born of the people who participate and share it. Then that's how the reinforcement happens, and that's how the reproduction, and that's how the perpetuation happens, because the formalized institution, the formal institutions come to birth, and then those our education institution dedicated to our vision of ourselves, our governance institutions dedicated to our vision of ourselves, our economic institutions dedicated to our vision of ourselves. So that's institution, 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 but each one cooperating inside of a master vision that we call a master narrative that speaks to our destiny. So our economic activity works for the destiny. Our governance activity works for the destiny. Our religious behavior works for the destiny, right? And so the womb, the culture becomes the womb that houses those institutions that operate dynamically to make all the citizens that are born inside of it to be oriented naturally towards a collective destiny that the people who gave birth to the culture have decided upon. This is where we're going, right? So that's how it is with America, right? But let me go back to this. So that's a critical way of understanding how all this works. But let's just understand this. So Metcalfe's law. So though I think most of you heard this in essence yesterday, so I'm not going to go in detail. But each one each one of these, Amazon, for example, is focused on a particular aspect by and large. So Amazon is focused on merchandising. So its network effect is around merchandising. And the strength of the network as it relates to merchandising for Amazon is based on the number of people who participate in that. I mean, you could just get the numbers of how many people, order on Amazon every day. Take that number and square it, right? Take that number and square it. And that's the power of the Amazon network, right? How many people do Google searches every day? Take that number and square it. And that's how strong the Google network is for search engines. That's, how big is it? How powerful is it? How strong is it? That's the Metcalfe's law. How its network effect. How much it's just phenomenal, almost like invincible in those regards. So sorry, I'm at the work on something. Give me something. Cough drop something. Once I start going, it still challenges me a bit. So okay, so it is with Google. How many people are using Facebook? Take that number and square it. And that's how strong the network effect for Facebook actually is for social networking, right? So these are just examples of, how many people, whatever, it just doesn't matter. How many people listen to music, right? How many people listen to hip hop? How many people, whatever, it doesn't matter. Take that number, square it, and that's the strength of the network for whatever that is. Okay, Taylor Swift, just throw that out. We've done Taylor Swift here. Okay, how many Swifties are there? Right. Take that number and square it, and that's how long how strong the Taylor Swift network effect is. Right. When is she going to get toppled? Right. So, all right. So that's the case. Okay. So we're talking about how many people subscribe, how many people follow, how many people utilize, whatever it is that we're talking about. So in the case of BTC, which is in relative terms, let's call it 15 years new in the fullness of it, 15 years new. But when it started out, it's like there was no network. There's no network. But what is the BTC network about? The BTC Bitcoin network is about monetary energy. What Amazon does for merchandise and what Google does for search engines, what Facebook does for social networking is what Bitcoin does for money. I'm going to be blunt with it. Is what Bitcoin does for money. Right? So when you talk about the more it gets adopted, then the stronger it as a network effect. But what is its strength of network effect about and centered upon? Money. So the idea is that it's like, just know this, brothers. I gotta be blunt, straight, clear about it. The dollar is dying and it will be dead soon. It is on life support in the global economic system. Look, put it like this. Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson in whatever their era was, is like, hey, you gonna get in the ring with him, right? Even the George Foreman thing, and we won't go through that. Y'all got enough of it in your memory to understand what happened. So it's like what Muhammad Ali became for boxing and still is for boxing, even after rahimahullah his passing, right? And Mike Tyson, even after his career in boxing. It's like the network effect for Muhammad Ali as relates to boxing, the network effect for Mike Tyson as relates to boxing, is like it still hasn't been totally replaced. I mean, I'm not going to argue that in the context of, well, for example, let's not do that. So I want you to get with this, be very, very clear. What Bitcoin is for money. Bitcoin is for money and will be for money. Go back and look at the history of Amazon. That's one that does stand out. There was a time where people were trying to figure out, what is Amazon? What does it do? Sell books? So they were trying to figure out, well, how do we value it? How do we price it? I mean, how much is it actually worth, the stock, blah, blah, blah. So it's like people didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know where to put it. They didn't know what its value was. And then it was coming through at a time when you had the .com bust, the .com bomb, when that and the internet was just beginning, and it's talking about shipping stuff, blah, blah. It just was not clear, right? And so people didn't know how to price it. So now I can't mess with it right now because what is it? I mean, how is it? Okay, but the rest is history now. So that's Amazon, right? So what I'm saying is, as we said a number of years ago, we started talking about 2015. We're going to go on. The point is that there was less clarity, obviously around 2009, 11, 13, etc. But where is it now, right? And what is the critical thing? Bitcoin is about the store of value. So the network effect of Bitcoin is a money network effect. It ain't about how many friends you got. It ain't about how fast and how far and how much information you can get. It's not about how many products you can ship in, overnight or fast and to wherever in the world as is. I hope you understand. I'm talking about, it's not about what Facebook is about. It's not about what Google is about. It's not about what Amazon is about. But look at how powerful all of those are around the thing that they are centered upon: merchandising, search engines, social networking. Hear me now. Bitcoin is about money. Whatever money does, Bitcoin is what does it better than whatever is called money right now. So obviously, y'all know I got a lot of energy around that because that's it. Let me move on. Maybe we can get better. So to create a network is to create a tribe with your vibe. That's really the network effect. So it's like so Elon Musk and what they call Dogecoin, right? And this Dogecoin is just Elon Musk just put his name to it. Go Doge. That's all he had to say. Just go Doge. And it's like now that thing, which has no function, nothing else like that, but it has a bunch of people who say, "Yeah, I'm with Doge. I'm with Doge." What does it do? I don't know what it does. Doesn't matter. Elon likes it. So I'm with Elon. So it created a network effect in the cryptocurrency space, which made millionaires out of what they call an altcoin that has no utility anywhere. So now you can back up and say, that's the problem. It's all a scam. No, that is a potential aspect of it where it can be scammy, and there are thousands of coins that are scammy. That's fine. That's what they're doing over there, right? Bitcoin is the real deal, and it's moving where it's going. But I'm not trying literally to promote on one level, yeah, because it's intergenerational wealth. It is what it is. It's like you can miss the boat, but we're gonna push on. Let's see. Okay, so Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is that Bitcoin is a solution to what's wrong with the world's money and economic system. Fiat currency, you need to look that up. Just look it up. And if you still have access to so many of I think they're still posted up. Blog Talk Radio, but Blog Talk Radio a year ago, I just found out this morning. That's part of one of the reasons I'm a little bit late. I was a little bit late. Is that the company, the Blog Talk Radio company, was sold to somebody else, and they just let it go to pot, basically. But I did go back and see that there are many of all the archives seem to still be up there. So I'm saying you can go WCP, and you can put Bitcoin, BTC, whatever. Put that in the search on Blog Talk Radio, WCP, blah blah, and you can go back and look at all the things that we talked about all of these things right here as relates to Bitcoin. Almost 10 years ago. So the point is, everyone, we've talked about every one of these things: fiat, the Federal Reserve, the fractional reserve banking, debt slavery, etc. If you can wrap those up, if you can see each one of them as a problem, okay, the problem of fiat needs to be addressed when it comes to money. The problem of the Federal Reserve, central banking, needs to be addressed when it comes to money. The problem of fractional reserve banking needs to be addressed when it comes to money. The idea of making debt slaves has to be addressed in terms of money. So just as we talked about necrosis, what are the list of symptoms and problems of necrosis? Are there this, and this? All right. We need something to address necrosis, which is its symptoms are blah, 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 blah. Bitcoin comes into the world and the world economic system and said, this has to be addressed. Fiat, federal, for central banking, centralization, fractional reserve banking, debt slavery, blah, blah. Bitcoin comes in, it's kind of like an economic Superman to say, okay, we're going to put an end to all this. That literally is what Bitcoin, and that's where the resistance was and is for some, but it's kind of like the cat's out the bag. That's pretty much done. That's why you see big Wall Street people getting on board, adopting it now, and trying to get as much of it as possible, because it has, as Michael Saylor speaks of it, it has this economic immortality. This thing is out, and it's not going to die. It's not going to turn around, no matter whatever, whoever, however. This is math, sociology, and the movement of this era. What era are we in? We're this age of artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it, technology. Let's move on. So Bitcoin is a solution to what's wrong with the world's money economic system for the benefit of all humanity now and in the future. All right. And so this is sort of the history. Let me see if I can get briefer on this. The Wealth Creation and Preservation broadcast, we did our first on November 9th, 2015. So that's also a place that you can start. Look for the date, November 9th, 2015. That was our first broadcast. And so during that period of time, in that month, you had this movement from $310 to $360 as a value per coin at that time. And during this period, Bitcoin was still in its early stages of adoption, but was beginning to gain more attention from investors and the media, because that was a big deal. It went from 0 to 360, in a given month, and at that time, when before, right after the crash of 2008, is like, what is this? This is nothing. It means nothing, and it got no value. Not going to go through all this, but I believe there's a sign in Matthew 20:16, which is the verse where you find in the Bible where it says, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And I'm saying, I believe it is a gift of God for those who have been on the bottom. If they're debt slaves, the biggest debt slave was the Negro. Right? If there's somebody who's been abused by the Federal Reserve System, the fiat system, the fractional reserve banking system, whoever has suffered because of the problems in this system, nobody suffered more than the Negro. I refer you to looking at the Color of Money. Baradarin is the author's name. The Color of Money. You want to see how deliberately keeping back. We know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what happened there, and so many other places, Rosewood, and all those kind of things. Listen, that book, The Color of Money, delineates this happened, that happened, this happened, that, of all the deliberate, conscious efforts that were intended to keep the Negro poor and broke. Right? And so the point is, along with all of the other things that we suffered in the experimental clinic, even after we got out of that, then you got the Jim Crow, and then I'll say again, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood. It's like, no matter how we tried to come up, anytime we came up, there was always someone there to tear it down, blow it up, etc. Horrible history in the nature of our situation. I am saying to you without equivocation, I believe that this Bitcoin scenario is Allah's blessing to the people who are otherwise subject to to a system that they control. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eliminating that system and has opened up an uncensorable, totally free access to a money, quote unquote, that is the money of the forever future. That is for the rest of our life, for sure. we are living in a time where we're going to see it rise. But there's coming a time after you and I have passed away fully, where the only money, just like dollars are everywhere in the world right now, and things are measured in dollars, Bitcoin is what the rest of the world is going to start measuring money. And that's when you really know that it's absolutely turned over, when it becomes what you call uh, whatever. Just like everything's okay. Oil is $100 per barrel. That's not really the price, but I'm just saying $100. So the standard of account. So when it becomes the standard of account, so they're going to start measuring things in satoshis. It's like, okay, 100,000 satoshis to buy this car, right? So now it becomes a unit of account. When it gets there, it's like it's that's it. When I don't have any prediction, but when it gets there, just imagine everywhere where dollars are now in the world, because dollar is the king as it stands right now, but it's on life support on the throne. When that as Bitcoin continues to go where it's going, it's like the only quote unquote real money in the world will be Bitcoin, which means that everywhere where dollars are is where Bitcoin is going to be on the other fiat currencies as well, which means the value of it, because everything is going to be measured by its standard, because it's the most secure quote unquote money, means of transaction, etc. It's like there's no put right now it's 68,000. Let's move on. I can't help but then. So all right, all we did here, we talked about what is money. That is the properties that makes money. Whatever it can be, whatever does these things best and most, that is money, right? Divisibility, durability, recognizability, portability, scarcity, etc. If it does that, then it can be used for money, right? Gold has been historically the quote unquote the best money, for the fact, or due to the fact, that it possessed all five qualities: divisibility, durability, recognizability, portability, and scarcity, right? And of course, we run into a little bump when it comes to portability, because it's so heavy and bulky and expensive to protect, right? Here, Wells Fargo, right? The logo of Wells Fargo, Stagecoach, right? But on that Stagecoach, you got to do riding with a shotgun, because that's what you had to do. And that's what we call it, riding shotgun, right? So the idea is, yeah, gold has it, but it also has that weakness, right? Okay, so when it comes up to Bitcoin in all five of those areas, without elaborating, Bitcoin does all of those things and does them all better. Does all those things, and that's a fact, right? Because it does that's the weakness that the fiat system and the central bankers and whatever, they don't want to be realized among the people, because you take away the game. Bitcoin kills the game. It kills the global money game, literally, right? And so it's like it's not going to be shut down. So that game is over. It's just those who are in that game now are trying to move themselves into a position where they can still be in charge of the Bitcoin game if they can just get people to be, oh, you don't want to mess with that. They call it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Bitcoin, it's a scam. It's a whatever. There's the tulip game. It's a Ponzi. It's back. Nothing is backing it up. Whatever. That's to scare you away. It's like a child that you don't touch that, don't touch that. When all the time you want to take it from the child. But let's move on. So Bitcoin does all those things. We're not that now. You can take a screenshot, because I want to move on in terms of time. So Bitcoin does all those things. I do want you to understand. I know maybe I'm overemphasizing, but I am telling you this. That your grandchildren, and depending on your younger children, I thought about Tyson. He's got a baby girl, 2 years old, 3 years old. I got grandchildren, and naturally my children's children. Like 3 years old. So when we look at them 30 years from now, they're going to be in the world that I'm talking about. They will be in the world that I'm talking about. And if they don't have the money that is the money of that time, then come on. All you got to do is just look at these third world countries, that these no hate, but these Christian organizations that they put cameras on so they can send us your money and we can take care of a child. That might be East Oakland if you don't take care of your grandchildren, get them straight on the basis of what's going to be the money when they are middle aged, and the like. Okay, so let's push past this. So the idea, we won't deal with the monetary prediction. I'm just telling you, right now it's $68,000, and it came from where? Zero. And when? 2009, right? And all these predictions are so apropos, and in fact, they are conservative based on so much that has been adapted right now. I don't want to stay there. I'm saying Bitcoin is the solution to the big money problems of the world. And Bilal is the solution to the Negro problem and everything that it relates to them as a people needing to be restored to their original humanity and state as intended by Allah. What's going to do that? You need to have a name that carries the master narrative and that can serve the function of carrying and forming and giving a foundation to your reality as a human being on earth. Nothing else does that. Just like nothing else does for money what Bitcoin does for money in the world, nothing else does for negrosis and for the Negro what Bilal as a term. Just think about it. When you understand all the elements that make all the elements that Bilal must stand for and does carry, what other word for us does that? Negro doesn't do it, colored doesn't do it, black doesn't do it, African doesn't do it, African American doesn't do it. Nothing else does it. All right. So I'm saying it's parallel to what Bitcoin is in the world. That's what Bilal is in the world. So whereas before it was worth nothing, right? There's an annual, you can look up Pizza Day, Bitcoin Pizza Day or something. The first transaction that was done with Bitcoin was 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. 10,000 Bitcoin, 10 with 3 zeros for 2 pizzas. And that's celebrated every year. I know if the guy is living, he said, that's got to be the most miserable day of his life, at least. He's reminded. It was like such a big deal, celebrated. Yeah, the first time people say Bitcoin can't be used for money. Well, here you go. We're going to use Bitcoin for money, and we're going to buy 2 pieces, and we're going to give the 10,000 Bitcoin for it. Come on now, do this math right here. 10,000 times 68,000. I can't even do the math. I can't do it. You do it. 10,000. Oh, let me see. Can I get my computer? No, I got it closed out right now. Wait a minute. Let's do this for the record, right? What's 10,000 times 68,500? It's 685 million. All right. So that's how much that purchase in today's Bitcoin price. They paid $685 million for 2 pieces. Okay. And so right now, 1 Bitcoin is like 68,000. So what I'm saying is the adoption, the movement, the growth of that big, and it is nowhere near mass adoption. Okay. That's why the big boys, they're doing what they can to buy up more and more and more, because brother and sister, it's not going to be any other money in the real, for a long time. It's going to be side by side, but ultimately the goal of money, if you will, the replacer is Bitcoin, and the value of it is just going to keep going. And so there you go. Bilal, this, if you have this vision, have this understanding that God is involved with the whole thing. This is, and this goes, and I'm gonna touch on a couple of pages as to what Imam Asma was talking about earlier. Is that if your worldview has, look, all this has been done by God. You have that. All this has been, all of it. It's like, listen, God says the upholding of the skies and the earth does not tire him at all, right? He's not the, so everything that's happening in the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created it and the one who sustains it, and he's not fatigued by it at all. So I'm saying is that even in the life of this, do you understand that whatever happened in the Middle Passage and in slavery and the experimental clinic, blah blah blah, it's like that's really not a big thing for God. Like, oh my God, do you imagine God also be like saying, "Oh horrible, oh terrible." Ooh, just let me answer one more pause for a minute. It's like, man, come on, guys, I got that. I got that whole thing. Everything that's happened to him, all is just in fitting for my plan. And so all these things, and I'm the thing that I'm saying about Bitcoin, for example, that's only one thing as relates to the life of that people that suffered that suffered all of that, right? That suffered all of that is that, and God said, here, take that with you. What you want me to take with me, guy? Take that Bitcoin with you. See what it do for you. It's like see if that satisfies you. That's not even to speak of how I gave you your mind, your spirit, your attitude, your history, a new master narrative, a place in the future that can be shared and you will not be displaced by any. It's like this is so when we talk. So the Renaissance is something that comes after we start using all of what the blessing of that quote unquote tragic but blessed history brought to us. Is like, well, we got a new mind, we got a new spirit, we got a new way of thinking, reason, we got a new way of seeing, and we got money. Come on. It's like, this day have I perfected for you your way of life. Let's move on. So Metcalfe's law then, which asserts the value of a network is proportional to the square of the number of participants, can be applied to the challenge of renaming a group, okay, such as the shifting from Blacks, African Americans, or African to Bilalian. The challenge lies in creating a widespread adoption and utility. Here's where we're talking about the culture, okay? The challenge lies in creating a widespread adoption and utility akin to the process seen in the major networks, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Bitcoin, which each one reached a tipping point where their value was undeniable and growth became self-sustaining. So the real tipping point for Bitcoin hasn't been released. Understand this. When that tipping point is realized, this 68,000 that we're talking about right here, then we're talking 68 million. And we're just talking simple for that. It feels like, it could feel like an exaggeration right now. But when were we talking about somebody potentially being the first trillionaire? But that's because of the weakness of the dollar, if you really want to understand. But I'm not going to stay there. Let's move on. Okay. So this note right here, let me see where we're going. Here's how this concept helps understanding the possibility and challenges. Okay, I'm not. I want to elaborate. That's going to come up maybe next week on the rise. I just want to touch on the cultural piece, and then I'm going to leave out. Okay, so this is the idea. Just to touch on it, just to introduce it, the process of cultural instantiation. That's what has to happen, right? So it's like Metcalfe's law is talking about the network effect. The strength of whatever it is being introduced, like a bicycle. Let's take bicycle, right? Bicycle was introduced, right? There was no network effect from when the first bicycle came in, right? But the more people started riding bicycles, the stronger the network effect for bicycles became. So much so where bicycles are just a reality, and all of the evolution that took place with and upon bicycles since their adoption, right? Automobiles the same. All right. So okay, so that happens with everything. The network effect is what causes it to be culturally instantiated. In order for a thing to be established in the cultural sense, then it comes by way of adoption. Okay. So a formal pathway for cultural instantiation of the term Bilalian as a name for African Americans, this pathway follows the key stages through which an idea becomes culturally established and integrated into an individual's consciousness and behavior, right? So this is the lesson. I think we may be able to get to this lesson next week on Rise, but I'm going to tick through this, and anybody want to take screenshots of it? You take screenshot of it. I'll leave it up for maybe 5 seconds so you can understand, and I'll try just to say a little bit. Then I'm going to be finished for today, inshallah. All right, so here we go. So it starts with having a culturally constituted worldview, right? So we give the definition, we give the action, and then we give the example. All right. Then what comes after that is, excuse me, there has to be media and leadership. Media and leadership. How do I cut this off? Then you have media and leadership. And then again, definitions, actions, etc., examples. These are all the ways by which it gets established as a culture, and it gets established in the culture. So you have to have media and leadership. Then after that, then it comes to the consumer goods and cultural artifacts. This is how the things gets adopted, this is how things gets promoted, and this is what creates the network. And then the more people subscribing to each one of each aspect, any aspect of it, it strengthens the entire network, right? So just since this is right in front of us, it's like there's going to have to be created cultural products such as books and films and music and fashion and educational programs, which are the artifacts that make tangible, to make accessible the individual's understanding and the internalization of what it stands for, right? Just like this T-shirt that I'm wearing now is inside the family. This is Mats and Muhammad's brand, the Melanin Gang, right? So somebody need to have a shirt that says Bilalian. It's just straight and different styles of Bilalian, right? And also, you have just like that Bitcoin and Bilalian thing. It's like, hey, put that Bitcoin on the front of it and Bilalian, right? It's like, come on now. If you a Bitcoin Bilalian, man, that's about to be. It already is a serious thing if you really understood it. But it's like, man, if I had a T-shirt, right, that's money. This free money I'm talking about right now. It's like you create a Bitcoin logo with Bilalian. You said something when you said that, but let's move on. Then it enters into the individual consciousness, and it comes into the individual consciousness, and this all gives example of that. Then moving on, social reinforcement and creating a feedback loop in order for that culture to be instantiated, formalized, right? And then also the persistence of culture and the adaptation. That is, more and more will adapt to it. And excuse me. And again, it perpetuates, because one of the things that happens, and I need to say, those of you in touch with the PIIIC is when I covered the whole thing in terms of that. If you're involved with the Freely Future Roots Leadership Institute, that was one of the first segments of that. Problem, instinct, idea, ideology, institution, and culture. And then the culture self-perpetuates after the institutions cooperate and perpetuate, because they are the source of socialization. And then in conclusion, the term Bilalian follows this pathway. We got to, obviously, the whole teaching is going to come later. The term Bilalian follows this pathway from a concept within a culturally constituted worldview to individual identity formation through social and media interaction. It becomes instantiated as a symbol and the basis of new African identity by aligning with shared values promoted by influencers and internalized by individuals. That's creating that network effect, right? The people promote it, the individuals internalize it, and you wear it on your chest, you talk about it in conversations, etc. You do artwork, and you do poetry, you do songs, you do movies, you do books, you do articles, you establish institutions to discuss the matters around it. All of that, all that's the culture. And this process allows the term to resonate and persist within the cultural consciousness of a community. So I want us to understand the first thing for us to do is use the word. Don't superimpose it, but just offhandedly, informally, just use the word. When you use the word, then it starts finding a place and resonance and experience among the people. So, alhamdulillah, I thank you for your patience. I hope that was useful.